Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll.
Teenagers, they all wanted to hear Elvis, to see Elvis, and many of them wanted to be Elvis.
With the swivel of his hips, a curl of his lip, and a sound that set hearts racing, he didn't just change music, he changed the world.
Probably the most important figure of the 20th century.
Yet behind the spotlight stood his manipulative manager, Colonel Tom Parker. A smooth-talking hustler who operated in a music business riddled with organized crime.
You either con or you get con.
When Parker brought Elvis to Las Vegas, he was stepping into a city built by the mob, where shadowy figures pulled unseen strings.
The mob was completely enmeshed in Las Vegas. They controlled the city.
Elvis lit up Vegas, but gangsters owned the ground beneath his feet, and Parker knew it.
You couldn't do business in Las Vegas without the mob.
As the Colonel gambled with the mob, Elvis slid deeper into a world of temptation, control, and corruption. Las Vegas made Elvis a legend. But in a town run by mobsters and money, even a king could be brought to his knees. Five years after World War II, a new era. Dwight D. Eisenhower is President of the United States. Factories are booming. America is alive with promise and possibility.
The 1950s are a time of amazing change in America. It's the time of huge, huge optimism. And I think one of the really interesting things is the music.
Sweeping across America's airwaves comes a new sound. Raw, wild, unstoppable. Rock and roll. Created by African-American pioneers like Chuck Berry and Little Richard, it's shaking the nation. But one name will eclipse them all.
Elvis Presley was a blazing star in the mid to late 1950s. He was something genuinely new. It was this combination of country, rhythm and blues, and rock. And he was able to merge all of those into a style and a format that was so appealing to young people. Not to their parents, but certainly to young people.
The world changed. He ushered in a teenage culture all its own.
The audiences just went crazy for him in a way that they didn't for any performer before then.
He's symbolic of something that young people could aspire to if they were rebelling.
The frenzy that he created was something that show business had never seen before.
Elvis Aaron Presley transformed rock and roll, but his story starts a long way from the spotlight. He is born on January 8, 1935, in Tupelo, Mississippi, to Gladys and Vernon Presley. Raised in poverty, he makes his first step into the music business in 1953 when he is 18 years old.
Elvis walked into the Memphis recording service one day to make a record. The receptionist asked him who he sounded like, and he said, "I don't sound like nobody." And indeed, he didn't sound like anybody. And she told Sam Phillips, who owned the Memphis recording service, as well as Sun Records, about him. And eventually they brought him back in and recorded him.
Sam always said, if I could find a white singer who could sing with the passion of a black singer, I'd be a rich man. I'd make $1 million. Well, he found one.
Elvis's first single, That's All Right, is recorded in July 1954. Released on Sam Phillips' record label Sun, it is a hit in the local Memphis charts. Elvis is on the rise. But the music industry awaiting the young star isn't built on dreams. It's built on corruption, run by crooked businessmen, shady moguls, and powerful figures with deep ties to organized crime.
The thing about the entertainment industry and the music industry is mobsters have been involved in it since the very, very beginning.
But there were some real crooks in the record business.
They run jukebox scams, which is essentially skimming money out of jukeboxes that have cash put into them. You've got payola, which is bribery essentially to play records in the charts. So the mobs are there right from the off.
In some cases, bright-eyed newcomers could find themselves at the mercy of record company mobsters.
They would hire young singers. They would get a few $1,000s upon signing a contract and maybe a car, and then nothing else after that. And lawyers were frightened of taking cases to represent these young singers when they learned that the mafia controlled the record companies. Sam Phillips, who founded Sun Records, he was able to stay out of the clutches of the mob, which operated in the record business.
The interesting thing about Elvis Presley is that his dealings at the very beginning with people like Sam Phillips, these are honest brokers in the industry. But then Colonel Tom comes into his orbit, and Colonel Tom is anything but.
A silver-tongued promoter in his late 40s, Colonel Tom Parker is a man of mystery. Claiming to hail from West Virginia, he's clawed his way into show business from the shadowy world of traveling carnivals and sideshows.
He came across for some people as this kind of hayseed carny guy.
He was a razzle-dazzle character. He worked for several carnivals, but mostly he was a concessionaire. He sold hot dogs where he would take the middle out of the hot dog, he'd fill it with kraut, and he'd charge full price for it. And when he made change, he glued a quarter to his ring. He would show them the change in his palm, with the quarter, of course, stuck to his ring, and then he would put it in their palm and close their hand so they wouldn't count it, so they'd just go off. And that way he was always a quarter ahead.
He was a salesman.
He was a conman.
To live up to my reputation of being a nice guy, this is it, folks.
He gave off an air of danger that was threatening and intimidating, even when he was laughing and smiling and looking you right in the eye. He's the only person I ever met that I felt was evil.
Yet if Colonel Tom carries an air of menace, he can be equally charming. And he has an uncanny ability to turn his carnival-honed hustler's skills to his advantage.
He understood why carnivals and circuses were popular. He also came to understand and appreciate the love so many Americans had for country and Western music. And he thought, I can combine the love of country Western music and my abilities as a carny. And he started putting together these tours of country Western stars to communities that had never seen a live show. And they were sellouts. He had some of the big or budding stars of country music in these: Ernest Tubb, Roy Acuff, Hank Snow. But the one he came across that gave him the most success was this mild-mannered singer named Eddie Arnold. And he controlled Arnold's recording contracts, he controlled Arnold on these tours, and made Arnold a lot of money, and made Colonel Parker a lot of money.
In 1953, after 8 years together, Arnold is worn down by Colonel Tom's controlling style, and the two men part ways. Colonel Tom begins hunting for a new act. And in January 1955, he finds him. A young man whose rock and roll swagger sends audiences into a frenzy.
He saw Elvis and he realized this was something special.
And so he kind of stalked him for a while. They would see him in the shadows backstage when they performed in Shreveport or in Texarkana. He wouldn't really approach them. He would just be there, the glow of his cigar in the shadows.
And suddenly, Tom Parker got to him and convinced his parents that he'd be very good for the boy.
He said, Elvis has a $1 million talent, and I'm going to make him $1 million.
He had incredible foresight that this was not just a quick flash in the pan, but this was a guy he could really build into a major, major star. And Elvis trusted him.
And Colonel Parker was able to sign Elvis at 21, and all bets were off as to how big a star he could be. The Colonel had big plans for Elvis from the very beginning. So the first thing he did was get Elvis off of Sun Records, take him over to RCA, and very, very quickly, Elvis was a big star with Heartbreak Hotel.
1956 was probably the greatest year for any pop music artist in history. He began at the beginning of the year with one hit song, Heartbreak Hotel. He got TV appearances on several shows, including The Ed Sullivan Show, and by the end of 1956, he was the hottest entertainer in America.
Between 56 and 58, Elvis achieves massive success. He has a ton of hit singles. He's got All Shook Up, Don't Be Cruel, Teddy Bear. Amazing singles that we still listen to today. He has 3 albums, Elvis, Elvis is Back, and Elvis's Christmas album. I mean, he's gone stratospheric.
The partnership between Colonel Tom and Elvis blossoms, and Elvis's career soars. In 1956, Elvis sells 12 million records alone, his debut album raking in over a staggering $1 million in sales. On the surface, the partnership between the Colonel and Elvis is a perfect match. But behind the scenes, the Colonel is quietly taking half of everything Elvis earns, a shocking and unheard of amount.
The Colonel had had a 25% royalty and a 25% management fee.
Most agents take 15 or 20%. The Colonel took 50%. But Elvis went along with it.
Everybody was a sucker, everybody was a mark, but he thought he was above it.
With Elvis's meteoric rise, the money floods in, making both him and Colonel Tom wealthy men. Elvis spends generously, lavishing money on his parents and buying his Memphis mansion, Graceland. Colonel Tom, meanwhile, throws away his cash in pursuit of an old addiction.
Colonel Tom Parker loved to gamble his entire life.
Because it reminded him of his glory days on the carnivals. He was attracted to games of chance, which he knew that he couldn't really win, but he couldn't stop himself. The Colonel always liked doing things in a slightly shady way. That's why he was attracted to Hot Springs, Arkansas. And there he first really got involved with gambling.
Hot Springs, Arkansas. Since the late 19th century, it had been America's hidden capital of gambling, a town where the law looked the other way and the mob ran the tables. Colonel Tom first visited in the 1930s, still hustling on the carnival circuit, drawn to the city's smoky back rooms and easy money.
There was off-track betting, hotels offered prostitution. There was anything you wanted as far as illegal activity. And he loved it there. He was really in his element. It's because he could rub shoulders with so-called important people.
This is a place that attracted the elite of organized crime. Lucky Luciano loved to go to Hot Springs, Arkansas. Al Capone liked to go to Hot Springs, Arkansas. Frank Costello also went to Hot Springs, Arkansas.
It became a kind of resort for mobsters who were on the lam.
And we know that Parker went there.
He could get away pretty much with doing what he wanted.
1,500 miles west of Hot Springs, another city was rising from the desert, Las Vegas, a place where casinos thrived and betting was a way of life. It soon captured Colonel Tom's imagination.
But when he got to Las Vegas, he must have said, "Oh my goodness, this is heaven for a gambler. They're all these places and they're legal."
Colonel Tom fell hard for Las Vegas, and the feeling was mutual. The casinos adored the Colonel, especially when they saw how much he was willing to lose. In one sitting alone, the Colonel reportedly lost $800,000, making him a prime target for the city's powerful mob bosses. A glittering playground of crime and cash, Vegas would soon play a defining role in the lives of both the Colonel and his sole client, Elvis Presley. Las Vegas, a city that Elvis Presley and his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, will come to see as a second home. Drawn to its wild energy, endless action, and dangerous allure. A city where roulette wheels spin night and day, and the promise of sin and sleaze is never more than a dice roll away. Mobsters run the town, from the smallest casino to the grandest hotel. But Vegas wasn't always like this. It began as a dusty railroad stop in the Nevada desert back in 1905, and within just a few decades, it exploded.
Two things happened in 1931 that have consequences for the rest of the century for Las Vegas.
Number one, they started construction of Hoover Dam.
The biggest public works project in American history.
And what that does is to bring in thousands of workers who will want to have a good time on the weekends. And the closest place to have a good time is Las Vegas.
Second of all, the state of Nevada legalized gambling. And Las Vegas was getting this idea that gambling could be the centerpiece of an economy. With a little light bulb goes on over the head like, maybe Las Vegas could be a place that would attract tourists. So during the course of the 1930s, you see building up along Fremont Street in downtown Las Vegas, a series of hotel casinos. They're small, but they're active, and there's entertainment, and there's gambling, and it's something you can't get anywhere else.
The legalization of gambling changes everything. For America's crime syndicates, Las Vegas isn't just a city, it's an opportunity.
That's going to be an open invitation for organized crime to come into the state of Nevada.
So what you see is the migration of organized crime from all parts of the United States. You have people coming in from Chicago, New York, Cleveland, Detroit, Milwaukee, Miami, New Orleans, Los Angeles. All of these cities are getting their piece of what's happening in Las Vegas. Once the mob arrived, they played a really important role in the development of the major industry, the casino industry here, by bringing expertise, entertainers, money, all kinds of different elements that they had picked up in their own underworld ways, around the country, to Las Vegas.
Some LA gamblers, they've been running these casinos in LA and offshore gambling boats for quite some time, see Las Vegas as a safe place to go, and the leader among them is a former police vice captain named Guy McAfee.
Guy McAfee comes in from California. He had been a gambling and prostitution racketeer in Los Angeles. He's kind of driven out of town. He moves to Las Vegas, and he buys a place called the Paradise Club. And he does some renovations, and he turns it into the 91 Club.
But he doesn't stop. He, a few months later, opens the Frontier Club on Fremont Street downtown, and it's a success. And within 2 years, he's opened with a consortium of other gamblers from California, the Pioneer Club.
Once a sleepy desert stopover, Las Vegas is becoming unrecognizable. The mob are turning it into their own shimmering kingdom, built on crime, sin, and entertainment.
In 1946, it's a huge year because you see two really iconic casinos open here. One, the Golden Nugget, and the other one, even more important, was the Flamingo Hotel. And the Flamingo was built and operated principally by Bugsy Siegel, a New York mobster who came to Las Vegas in a desire to go legit, if you will, and to do something more constructive with his life than kill people. And so he builds, with help from a lot of his partners in the mob, the Flamingo.
The Flamingo was the breakthrough hotel in Las Vegas because it was a real spiffy place with not kind of an Old West decor, which the earlier hotels had, but a real sort of LA, Miami Beach kind of sophistication.
Really the first of its kind in Las Vegas. And it was attracting the Hollywood crowd. It was attracting the Los Angeles crowd in a way that the other places in Las Vegas couldn't.
And it looks like it's going to be a success because he sells luxury at a low price, but most notably, he decides the best way to bring ever more customers into the Flamingo is to offer top-flight entertainment.
Entertainers would continue to keep people entertained while they were gambling. This was a way to keep them in the showroom, to keep them spending money, and it was great. Everywhere you went, there was entertainment. So by the late 1940s, Vegas was beginning to get a reputation as a magnet for the top nightclub stars in America.
With entertainment now a major draw for tourists, Las Vegas continues to grow as hotel casino after hotel casino spring up.
The real heyday of Las Vegas didn't come until the early 50s, when the new hotels, the sort of classic Vegas hotels, began to open one by one. The Desert Inn, the Sahara, the Sands, the Riviera. In about 5, 6, 7 years, suddenly you had this strip of hotels, one more glamorous than the next, all of them competing for the top nightclub stars in America.
What really appeals to these figures from organized crime is that when the take is picked up at the end of the gambling day and taken to the count room, virtually all of these mob-owned casinos will skim off some of the profit.
It happened at all the casinos. There would be people working in the cash room, counting up all the cash. And someone from the mob would go into the cash room and start filling up briefcases with money, hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. And the people counting the money pretended not to see this.
This illegally skimmed money often finds its way to entertainers, paid under the table on top of their official earnings. This lucrative bonus makes Las Vegas an irresistible draw for the biggest names in show business.
You know, it was the logical place for any entertainer to go.
Perhaps it's the promise of easy money that draws Elvis Presley's manager to Las Vegas. Once settled in, Colonel Tom begins to move in powerful circles, befriending casino bosses and local kingpins. Among them, Milton Prell, the visionary behind one of its most iconic resorts, the Sahara. Prell's business partner is an underworld-linked figure called Al Winter, leading some historians to speculate over Prell's own possible mob connections and his friendship with Colonel Tom.
The Sahara is a very popular place, and ever since it opened, people have tried to puzzle out, how did Prell get the money? One rumor is that it came from the Detroit mob, but we just don't know for sure. My own conclusion is that Milton Prell got his money through legitimate means.
The relationship between Milton Prell and the Colonel is kind of murky. I think Prell was the front man for the Detroit mob, but he was closely involved with Mo Dalitz. Mo Dalitz was, of course, Mr. Las Vegas.
Mo Dalitz is sort of epitomized the Las Vegas story in the sense that he was very much had a dark past. He had been involved in bootlegging and illegal gambling for years, but he comes to Las Vegas and somehow he is now one of the leaders of the city.
Parker was no fool. He was aware of what Las Vegas was like, so Parker had to know that he was entering a place where organized crime was a fixture.
Well, the Colonel spends so much time in Vegas, he's meeting everyone. He's meeting all the casino people, he's meeting all the people who run the venues.
Parker had to promote Elvis. He has this ambitious idea of how to promote this new star. And he knows Las Vegas. He knows Las Vegas has become ever more popular for people to go to. He knows about the sands. He knows obviously about the Sahara where his friend Milton Prell is. So he decides to book Elvis in Las Vegas at the New Frontier Hotel in summer 1956.
I think the Colonel took Elvis into Vegas in '56 for a number of reasons. One, it had now become his playground. He wanted to go gamble. But most important, I think, he wanted to be a big shot. And people there knew his name and were taking him seriously.
The 91 Club started life as Paradise, one of the earliest mob-affiliated casinos on the Strip. Now renamed the New Frontier, it's where Elvis Presley makes his Las Vegas debut. But Las Vegas isn't ready for him yet.
When Elvis played Las Vegas in 1956, he was too new to play Vegas. He had just come on the national scene, and he was 21 years old. And you can hear his jokes, they're just almost painful to listen to. His accent is very deep South. He's mush-mouthed. He's kind of embarrassing. The people who came to Vegas then were an older crowd. They were raised on very different kinds of music than rock and roll. And Elvis was just too green. He was too young. He was too unsophisticated for the Vegas audience.
One local later recollected that she went to one of the shows and found it vulgar. Elvis's first appearance in Las Vegas was not successful, yet he loved being in Las Vegas. He loved the whole atmosphere of the city. He loved staying at the Sahara, Milton Prell's hotel. He liked the entertainment possibilities in Las Vegas. He loved the restaurants, and he met an awful lot of attractive women. Indeed, the one thing that Colonel Parker got really upset about the following year is that there were photos snapped of Elvis with a famed stripper named Tempest Storm. Parker said, "No, you can't do it. We're trying to create an image of you, and that's not going to be helpful at all."
Now, Tempest Storm is famous because she has affairs with so many famous people. Sammy Davis Jr., Mickey Rooney. And she also has an affair with Mickey Cohen, who is one of the most notorious mobsters of the era. So it shows that Elvis was dating people who were certainly connected to the mob.
Elvis Presley revels in the neon buzz of Las Vegas. Its glamour, its danger, its sin. His first show in the city may have fallen flat, but his fame keeps rising around the world. He stars in films like Jailhouse Rock and King Creole, movies that utilize his raw charisma to powerful effect. And he records more classic singles like Love Me Tender, Shake, Rattle, and Roll, and Trying to Get to You. Elvis seems unstoppable, but soon his rise will come to a screeching halt.
In the middle of the most spectacular show business rise in history, Elvis had to drop out. In 1958, Elvis was drafted. He went to Germany, and spent 2 years in the Army.
It's possible Colonel Tom could have kept Elvis out of the Army if he had wanted. But military service is good for business. It scrubs Elvis's image clean, turning the rebellious rocker into an all-American boy. Elvis's time in the Army doesn't just stall his career. It ends his Vegas escapades, too. Meanwhile, the city is hitting its stride, pulsing to a rhythm all its own.
At this time, there's a different entertainer who's associated with Las Vegas. And that man is Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra was the leading Vegas entertainer in the 1950s.
He was a superstar.
Early 1960, Frank Sinatra came to Las Vegas to shoot Ocean's 11, a film that he had helped produce, and enlisted a lot of his Hollywood friends in the cast. Peter Lawford, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and Joey Bishop.
They decide, why don't we perform at the Sands 2 shows a night, while during the day we film Ocean's 11.
That show became known as the Rat Pack shows. Those 5 performers came on stage and just tore up the place.
It becomes a phenomenon.
All those guys were really the kings of Las Vegas in those years.
While Elvis is in the Army, Frank Sinatra cements his reign over Las Vegas. To the crowds who flock to Las Vegas, Sinatra and his crew are the ultimate entertainers. Yet underlining Sinatra's many years at the top of the entertainment industry are the friendships and alliances he's built over decades with a web of organized crime figures.
One of the more intriguing aspects of the Rat Pack performances is that comedian Joey Bishop. When he would bring on Frank Sinatra, he would say, "Frank, why don't you come on and say something positive about the Mafia?" And Sinatra inevitably would say, it's a good group.
Yet if he downplays his connection on stage, Sinatra's buddies include some of the most vicious mobsters of the era.
While he's performing at Sands, Sinatra is maintaining a strong friendship with a Chicago gangster named Sam Giancana, who was the head of the Chicago outfit. He had met Giancana in the early 1950s. They became friends.
Sinatra would claim that he was friends with them, but he had nothing to do with their business. But definitely, it was always something that tainted Sinatra's reputation.
Elvis, stuck in the Army, misses the rise of the Rat Pack. But when he's finally discharged in 1960, Colonel Tom sets the stage for their worlds to collide.
Elvis did a welcome home special with Frank Sinatra when he came home from the Army.
Sinatra and Elvis were a pretty odd couple. During the mid-50s, Sinatra was one of the people who really badmouthed rock and roll. Frank was the epitome of the classic nightclub singer, and this new music, this crazy rock and roll, was something that was kind of a threat to the traditional pop jazz singers. But by 1960, when Elvis came out of the Army, Frank Sinatra realized that this was going to be the biggest comeback probably in American show business history, and he managed to negotiate that Elvis would make his first appearance on TV after getting out of the Army on a special that Frank Sinatra was doing for American TV. It was really a weird sort of get-together of these 2 icons of 2 different styles of American music.
Pairing Elvis with Frank Sinatra, he was signaling that Elvis was now a respectful character. He was not that hooligan who used to wiggle around on the stage. He was the boy next door. Come home.
Thanks to his appearance on Frank Sinatra's TV special, Elvis Presley is now tied to the old guard of Las Vegas. But after Elvis's disastrous first shows there, Colonel Tom is reluctant to bring Elvis back to the city.
He had an offer from Milton Prell at $75,000 a week to play Las Vegas, and the Colonel turned it down. He couldn't risk sending Elvis back to Las Vegas yet, after that really embarrassing bombing in 1956.
In 1961, Elvis Presley retreats from live performing entirely. Instead, the Colonel steers him into acting, and across the 1960s, Elvis stars in dozens of mostly mediocre Hollywood films. With names like Speedway, Clambake, Change of Habit, Double Trouble. Yet, whenever Elvis is not filming, he's back in Las Vegas, indulging in the city's endless temptations with his entourage, who have picked up a playful new nickname.
He would bring his pals along with him. They would travel around town in their dark suits and sunglasses, and they became known as the Memphis Mafia.
Elvis loved Las Vegas. He loved to go and play and see shows. And he wasn't a big gambler, but he loved the freedom of Las Vegas. He loved it as an adult playground.
There are hookers there. There are beautiful showgirls. And the mob runs these places.
The mob might have its hands in every corner of the city, but if Elvis notices, he doesn't seem to care, and he is about to play with fire.
Elvis was having an affair with Phyllis McGuire, who was one of the McGuire sisters. It's a big pop singing group from the 50s and 60s. Her boyfriend was Sam Giancana, a well-known mob figure. And when Elvis met Phyllis, she was carrying a gun and said that Sam Giancana, her boyfriend, wanted her to carry a gun. And Elvis says, will you tell Sam that I carry 2 guns?
At the height of it all, Elvis makes a movie in the city that has become his playground, a glittering love letter to Las Vegas itself.
Viva Las Vegas was one of the better films that Elvis made. What Viva Las Vegas did was really showcase Las Vegas. There were scenes in the hotels and the showrooms up and down the Strip.
This film is just almost a perfect promotional film for Las Vegas because what you see is what Las Vegas promoters want you to see. You don't see organized crime, you see how spectacular a resort city it is.
Glitz and glamour and fun and desert vistas and everything that's portrayed in the movie. And you have Elvis at his peak.
That film did a lot to sort of raise people's consciousness of Vegas and maybe attract more people there.
Viva Las Vegas shows a sparkling, cleaned-up version of the city. No gangsters, no crime, just music, glamour, and fun. In real life, the mob is everywhere, woven into the very fabric of Vegas life. But somehow Elvis keeps his hands clean.
The guys in Elvis's entourage were puzzled by the fact that they really didn't see the mafia around Elvis very much. And they wondered how the Colonel was able to keep them away from Elvis as much as he did. But it was clear that they were there and watching. One day, Elvis's friend Marty Lacker was in the coffee shop at the Thunderbird. This obvious mafioso-looking figure stopped by and he asked how Elvis was. Marty told him he was doing fine. He said, he's a good boy, it's good to hear. But tell him if he ever needs anything, let me know.
Working tirelessly behind the scenes, Colonel Tom's old friend Milton Prell helps keep Elvis's image squeaky clean.
Milton Prell's main role with Colonel Parker was an arrangement by which Milton protected Colonel and Elvis from the more malignant figures in the mafia. That, I believe, was the key to that relationship. So he wouldn't allow Elvis to be photographed with most of the players, and by that I mean the mafia figures in Las Vegas. He kept it all on the hush-hush.
Yet Colonel Tom isn't above using the threat of the mob to keep control, especially when Elvis begins to grow restless with his endless string of film roles. And the Colonel uses the recent homicide of a famous soul singer to his advantage.
By the mid-60s, Elvis was just fed up with the movies. He wanted to be a Brando. He wanted to be James Dean. He wanted to win an Oscar. Instead, he ended up making this string of formulaic movies, and he was embarrassed by them, and he didn't want to do them anymore. And he got to where he would show up late, and of course the Colonel would be furious with him. He told him that his fellow RCA artist, Sam Cooke, that the mob had gotten to him because he was stepping out of line. And the Colonel threatened Elvis that these very kinds of things could happen to him. The mafia wasn't just gangsters in the streets anymore. It was the heads of corporations. These were men whose names ended in vowels, men with uncles with names like Jimmy the Thumb. So Elvis needed to keep it all squeaky clean, do it as he is told, and earn money.
The mid-60s. Music tastes are changing, and psychedelic rock is the new sound. The king of rock and roll's crown is slipping. Colonel Tom needs a way to get the nation talking about Elvis again, and he has the perfect occasion. The wedding of Elvis and his girlfriend Priscilla at Milton Prell's new hotel, the Aladdin.
Elvis hadn't planned on getting married in 1967, nor had he planned on getting married at all.
But this is a way to get him in front of the national media again.
They marry inside Milton Prell's private suite at the Aladdin. And of course, it gives the Colonel another chance to go to his favorite city, where once again he can gamble.
There are very few people at the wedding. Most of the people there are photographers and news folks.
The Bill Presley wedding was really the Parker Prell wedding.
Parker and Prell are able to pull off this remarkable event that captured the nation's attention.
Elvis's wedding closes one chapter and opens another. And as his life evolves, so too does the ever-changing face of Las Vegas. A new era is dawning in Las Vegas. As outside investment pours in, the mob's grip on the city starts to slip.
In the mid-60s, Vegas was starting to change. The mob-controlled hotels were still there, but suddenly, in 1966, billionaire Howard Hughes moved into Las Vegas.
He and his entire entourage took over the top 2 floors of the Desert Inn, which was owned by Mo Dalitz. And they were all Mormons, so they neither drank nor gambled.
They wanted him to leave because they needed those penthouse suites for the big high rollers that they would bring in around Christmas time. Hughes refused to leave and he bought the hotel instead. Then he goes and buys the Sands and 3 or 4 other hotels.
As Howard Hughes snaps up properties across the Strip, his money brings respectability. As Vegas changes, Elvis stagnates. By the late 1960s, Elvis hasn't performed live for over 7 years. Trapped in a Hollywood film career he no longer believes in, he's been overshadowed by bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. But in 1968, a visionary TV producer gives him the push he needs, relaunching Elvis for a new generation.
Steve Binder was a fan of rock and roll, a young guy, and he really wanted to reintroduce Elvis to the American public. So he created a special that really showcased Elvis as a live performer in a way that people hadn't seen for almost a decade.
And it's the most watched program on American television in 1968.
And after that special, the Colonel decided, okay, now it's time maybe to get Elvis back to live performing.
Back in Las Vegas, the Strip continues to change. More corporate figures are arriving. The next mogul seduced by Las Vegas's allure is a powerful businessman named Kirk Kerkorian.
Kerkorian was someone who, like Howard Hughes, saw Las Vegas as an opportunity. He decided to start investing here.
He decided to build a brand new hotel in Las Vegas, the biggest hotel in Las Vegas, in fact, the biggest hotel in the world, the International Hotel. Getting ready for an opening in summer of 1969, he was looking for the biggest act he could find in America to open the hotel. They focused on Elvis Presley.
Elvis is back, and for the first time in years, he's returning to the stage. But behind the scenes, there's a darker motive at play. Colonel Tom's choice of venue may have less to do with music and more to do with the mob connections that still shape the city and his own entanglements with organized crime.
The Colonel's gambling debts and all the things that he owed to the mob and the control that they had over him completely and totally shaped the last third of Elvis Presley's career.
What should be a thrilling comeback for the king of rock and roll will soon fall apart, fueled by drugs, paranoia, and the dark underbelly of Las Vegas. What comes next will rewrite the legend forever.